Hello and welcome to a dungeon guide for the Dusk Vigil, a level 50 to 52 instance located in Western Coerthas within the Heavensward Expansion for Final Fantasy XIV. It's been quite some time since I did one of these videos, but they were some of the first videos I actually did on YouTube, so let's pick up where I left off, shall we? The Dusk Vigil contains various rooms connected together within this iced over fortress. It contains 3 bosses in total and numerous trash rooms between them. The majority of the trash packs are triggered by reaching certain parts of the dungeon, jumping from walls, roofs, etc, so it's wise to pull packs as you see them back to where you stand, rather than just body pull them, as to not overpull unexpected adds. Since the majority of this trash is self-explanatory, let's speed this up so we can explain the first boss fight. Boss 1 is the Towering OLIPHAUNT. Notably, this boss should be tanked away from the party, yet the majority of his attacks will be AoE based anyway around his body. The first ability to be aware of is Rear. The OLIPHAUNT will occasionally rear up and slam back down, doing damage. Simply move from this as you would any other yellow avoid spot. Throughout the fight, OLIPHAUNT will use Prehistoric Trumpet. This is a AoE damage to the entire party, unavoidable, so be ready to use a minor AoE heal like Medica if you have one. The OLIPHAUNT's major ability is Rock of Ages, which is a stun, randomly picking a target from your party and using this stun, then using Woolly Inspiration, which is a conal cleave on the stunned party member. This will require a top up of the member targeted. The boss can also use a charge ability known as Rout in this stun situation on the player targeted, and any one of the other party members, usually the tank, can get in between both player and boss to reduce the damage they take by sharing the damage and reducing the amount any one player takes. There you go, it's a fairly basic fight, but it's a fun introduction to Heavensward content nonetheless. Speeding up the next room somewhat, but the only thing you have to really be aware for is that the next few trash packs are actually reanimated from the corpses you see on the floor. Many of them actually look dead, but are actually triggered on footsteps that you make as players to actually come alive as adds. So for that reason, make sure you don't rush ahead and actually don't realise that you've pulled a load of mobs, because you'll probably get overwhelmed. However, the damage they deal is pretty insignificant, and this is an entry level dungeon for Heavensward, so don't expect them to be too much of a problem if you do overpull. Just AoE them down with no real worries and move on. Once you have cleared the trash outside the Lord Commander's office, they actually drop a key, the Lord Commander's key. This unlocks the door in front of you, which leads to the next boss. Boss number 2 is actually the reanimated commander of the Vigil himself. You may notice frozen corpses like the adds outside the room. These will actually reanimate throughout the fight, surprise surprise, and attack you. If you do gain aggro off one of these mobs from the tank, be aware that they all possess a conal cleave attack, which can easily be sidestepped, obviously. Certain adds are casters, and they will periodically cast buffs around them. The idea then is to move the boss away from the caster adds to prevent the boss from stacking a damage buff, which could, likely be the only real reason you could fail in this fight anyway. The other yet pretty main ability of this boss is called Death Spiral. This is an ability that fills the entire room with purple, apart from the clear disc around melee range of the boss. So that's the safe point where you need to get to. All of the other areas will probably kill you or near enough kill you. Pretty nasty damage you don't want to take. Obviously, for this reason, stacking in melee, if any of the caster adds are still alive, then they're going to be stacking the buff onto the actual boss, increasing his damage. So for that reason alone, adds take priority until you can actually burn the boss down later in the fight. Sort of 10%, 15% left on the boss, don't bother with the adds. But until that point, you should really kill those adds as soon as possible. Once you've beaten the Lord Commander, you head on through the doorway into the keep proper. Various trash packs will have, certain different mechanics, most of which are the AoE sort of frostbite damage you take from the winds outside. This is very similar to Stone Vigil if you've been to that place. It's basically a rehash of that ability, just requires some AoE healing and light spot healing throughout, but most of them are ice elementals, so obviously they do quite a lot of damage, so you don't want to pull multiple packs of those. Ice damage does a hell of a lot of damage in this game for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but it's all mostly AoE and painful. But anyway, Upon reaching the next boss, OPINICUS, you are greeted with a circular platform with a few piles of rocks and debris around the outer ring of said platform. These are important as one of the boss's major abilities, called the Whirling Gowl, actually is like a massive tornado that spawns in the centre of a room. The only way to avoid the damage from this and the debuffs it gives is to hide behind one of the said rock piles. When you see the tornado spawn, you have time to get behind them before it starts pulsing with damage, so you must hide behind one of the rock pillars until it ends and then continue to fight. You will be able to still attack the boss in this phase, so it's obviously a good idea to follow the tank to the debris he goes to and hides if you're melee. Otherwise any pillar will do. There's no like line of sight restrictions with these pillars. You can cast through them, you can even walk through them, so they've thought about casters in this, which is awesome. Later in the fight, as it progresses, the boss destroys nearly all of the rock pillars apart from one or two in a move called the Winds of Winter, which is triggered by him reaching, I think it's 50% HP left or something like that. So when the tornado comes, make sure you're in a position to move to the nearest safe pillar, otherwise you'll get a nasty wind resistance debuff and damage over time that stacks, which is horrible. Other mechanics include a line attack from the boss's face direction called Alpine Drift. This does significant damage, but the cast time for this ability is so long it's so easily avoided you shouldn't get hit by it. Freefall is an ability OPINICUS uses where he'll face a random selected party member and jump on their location. This will actually destroy any rock piles they happen to be close to, like right on. For this reason, don't stand next to the pillars directly or on them directly. Otherwise you'll have nowhere to hide during tornado phases, which could wipe the party obviously. So if you've followed all of these abilities correctly and performed well, you should have your first Heavensward dungeon complete. If you found this video good, please leave me a like, it does help. And I have to say thank you for watching, and in the next Final Fantasy XIV dungeon guide, I'll see you next time.